Morning, friends. Ash here, WAT News, with some more news and election updates. It's January the 4th, 2021. And I caught this coming out of Gateway. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's update to Georgia's voting machine software right before the 2020 election was unlawful and violates any certification of state results. So is it starting to look like that the whole thing in Georgia's can't be certified at all? Is there too much taint, right? And were they connected? We know they were connected to the internet now, right? And we know that Coomer and these people all lied when they said they weren't. And that's the question I was asking. Is something connected to the internet, the poll pad, the tabulator? But actually there was a television in there that they also hacked through, right? You saw it through Jovan Pulitzer's testimony. So how many other places was there a smart TV like that inside that had wireless inside of it? That's the question, right? How many of these other places had a thermostat that could have been accessed, and how much other stuff has been, accessed? We don't know that. Georgia's corrupt Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger is in criminal trouble now after leaking a phone call with the President of the United States. Raffensperger is also responsible for approving an update to the voting machines in the state days before the 2020 election, which was illegal and should invalidate the results of the election in the entire state. Yesterday, it was reported that Georgia's corrupt Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, is the party to two lawsuits from the President of the United States after leaking information related to their recent phone call. I mean, this guy's just unbelievable. He's going to go down with the ship, right? They must have some real deep blackmail stuff on him. He's either bought off completely or he's being threatened. I don't know, but he's obviously not doing his job anymore. He never was. But quite frankly, Raffensperger has done much worse. The Georgia SOS is to ensure secure and accurate elections, and yet he allowed Dominion voting machines to be used in the 2020 presidential election, opening the door to blatant discrepancies and fraud. But it gets worse. Raffensperger actually allowed an update to the software used in these Dominion voting machines only days before the 2020 election. We reported on this weeks ago. Dominion's Trump-hating executive Eric Coomer performed a suspicious update in Georgia a week before early voting started. This is a CD Media reports that the update was to the imaging system of Dominion's voting machines. Let's check it out.
Some Georgia residents and software experts are sounding an alarm over a software update underway now in the state's new voting machines. They'll be used next week in early voting, but the question is, will the update do more harm than good? 11 Alive's Doug Richards is checking it out for us tonight.
The state told us last week that the update was routine, but the sheer scope of the update on each one of the state's 34,000 or so voting machines is what's raising eyebrows. The biggest update occurred over the last week at Fulton County's voter warehouse in northwest Atlanta.
That's where we're having all the problems.
To scuttle the voting machines because they say the update is more than Georgia's 159 counties can safely handle. The counties then have to test the voting machines afterward to make sure the new software didn't deliver any surprises to the rest of the program. Software security researcher Hari Horsty says it puts the entire election at risk.
There is always possibility of unintended consequences. In Boeing 737, they tried to fix a small problem, and unbeknownst to them, they created another problem which then went off and killed hundreds of people.
Horsty was among those observing the software update in Fulton County over the last week. He says he saw sloppy security and mistakes by workers as they installed it. How big a deal might this be? Tonight on 11 Alive News at 6.
So you could see that's a problem, right? What was the scope of that download? How big was it? And did it go through correctly? And what, we don't even know. After the election equipment is certified for use, no changes can be made to the software or hardware without SOS and EAC approval and maintain the certification for the election. According to a 2020 election lawsuit filed in Georgia during September 2020 ahead of the general election, Georgia SOS Raffensperger ordered county election officials to do a complete software wipe of the BMD's ballot marketing devices and install brand new software that never went through the certification process. As of this October 2nd report, Dominion has not submitted a request for this major change with the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. So if they put through a change and they never got it tested through here, then it's not valid. That's correct. Trump is right, because you have to go through EAC, right? According to the Master Technical Evaluation listed above, both Dominion and the GASOS are very clear on the fact that this breaks the certification for Georgia and may well get the ballots voters cast tossed as a result. The new software was never even tested to see if it caused other issues with the system. Georgia SOS Raffensperger ordered counties to make the change knowing it is illegal in Georgia, and puts the onus of liability on the county election managers themselves if they complied. This email from the lawsuit shows how serious the situation is. SOS Raffensperger also helped draft a loophole in the law to make EAC certification meaningless, even though Georgia law demands compliance with federal election standards. So here's case 117, document 959-4, file 10920. This is an election email that's going to Phyllis Wheeler, that's going to Kay Warren, Jay Duran, all these different people, Deirdre Holden, Jay Roberts, providing the facts, BMD security risks, and software update. The events of the last 11 days have made it clearer than ever that county election officials have the duty to abandon the county-wide use of BMD touchscreen machines and adopt hand-marked paper ballots, because the BMD units cannot be used securely or legally, certainly making their deployment impossible, quote-unquote, impractical or unusable. Those are the conditions in the statute and new election rule that call for the superintendent's decision to use hand-marked paper ballots. We offer more facts as your board makes this significant decision. The 2020 general election is underway, and last week the Secretary of State ordered election officials across the state to erase the original certified software from 34,000 ballot marking devices and install new software which was uncertified and untested. George Eliason at CD Media goes on to discuss the illegal updates made in Georgia before the 2020 election, and then after much more information and fact. Eliason ends with this. Stacey Abrams lobbied online to get Dominion's Democracy Suite for this election because she is part of that system with Governor Brian Kemp and SOS Raffensperger. Georgia's constitutional rights and citizens' rights have been violated during every election for the past 18 years, every time someone took advantage of this voting system at every level it's used for. Your vote didn't matter. Your election was decided for you. Georgia, I'm offended for you. Both Republicans and Democrats use these corrupted election systems to gain power and wealth today at the expense of voters. If you voted for Joe Biden and think it's okay because your candidate won, think again. Every time a good qualified candidate who is for the American people runs, the election will be stolen. If this isn't stopped now, Georgia, it's time to say no more. The 2020 election was stolen. If the information above doesn't convince you, it's because you're part of the problem. Donald Trump won the 2020 election, and there it is. So that's an interesting, really well done article, I think. There's a lot of information in there. The question's going to be, was this change done by Raffensperger legal? And it doesn't appear to be, because the legislature has to vote, just like in Pennsylvania. The legislature there in Georgia has to make the change to the voting system if there is a change. And why did you wipe the entire thing clean? Why did you install another update or of some kind that wasn't tested at all? That invalidated, in a sense, all those votes that were taken in that system, because you did a process that wasn't legal. So Raffensperger's in deep trouble, because he also leaked the phone call with Trump. And there's another issue now, right? Breaking Patriot. Jovan Pulitzer's team is being shot at after they were given directive to identify fraudulent ballots. So one of the team members had their house shot at like 5 times. And of course they're trying to get hold of the ballots, and it appears that some of the ballots were being moved around after they heard that he was involved in this. So I'll have to see how that plays out. Obviously there's people in Georgia who don't want this information coming out, right? Because if it does, it could affect the the totals in the election, or the entire election now could be, appears to be tainted, right, in many different ways, not just one way. You could check out that article. Also, breaking judge rules that Julian Assange cannot be extradited to the U.S. So is Trump going to have to pardon Assange? We don't know yet. It's not looking good for poor Julian. Hopefully he'll get some kind of relief in some way. And now we've seen that Mexico has stepped forward saying that they are offering political asylum to Julian Assange after UK judge blocks extradition. So we'll see how that all plays out with Julian. Is he going to be freed? Is he going to eventually come out and spill the beans about Seth Rich? Is Seth Rich still alive? Is he dead? Where's the information on him? We don't know any of that yet, right? This is also coming out of Gateway report. White House planning to refer Brad Raffensperger to Secret Service for investigation under the Espionage Act by Jim Hoft. It's not clear. President Trump held a 1-hour-long call with crooked Secretary of State Raffensperger and state election officials on the 2020 election. It's not clear if Ruby Freeman or Ralph Jones Sr. were on the call. In the 1-hour phone call on Saturday, President Trump insisted he won the state and threatened vague legal consequences. Trump attorneys and Georgia attorneys were on the call. Raffensperger's team later leaked the call to the far-left Washington Post. It took 24 hours for the Washington Post to publish a hit piece using edited audio clips on the president's call. Georgia Republican Chairman David Schaefer later announced that President Trump and his team filed 2 lawsuits against Secretary of State Raffensperger. David Schaefer, President Donald Trump has filed 2 lawsuits, federal and state, against Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. This was after Raffensperger secretly recorded the confidential settlement discussion of that litigation that is still pending. The audio published by the Washington Post is heavily edited and omits the stipulation that all discussions were for the purpose of settling litigation and confidential under federal and state law. So you just broke a federal crime. You just committed a federal crime, right? Because if that was the stipulation beforehand, and you're settling a litigation, that's private, right? That's between the parties, and it's confidential. It shouldn't be released to the public, right? If that's the case, then you just violated the law. You have a big problem. Dirtbag Raffensperger is in serious trouble. What is with this guy? Why is he so determined to defend the massive fraud in his state? The audio published by Washington Post is heavily edited and omits the stipulation that all discussions were for the purpose of settling litigation and confidential under federal and state law. Now this. According to reporter Jack Posobiec, the White House is planning to refer Raffensperger to Secret Service. He should be. He should be. Because if that, in fact, was a confidential conversation that both parties agreed was the end of a litigation process, and if it's the end of a litigation process, what does that mean? That means that there was already some kind of case against Georgia, right, that they're dealing with. So what are we litigating here? Are we litigating that Georgia has agreed that there was some, did Raffensperger agree to something with these people, and now he's turning around and not doing it? We don't know. But, it sounds to me that if this is the end of a litigation, when you're litigating something, that means it's either in a court or you're maybe going to court, right? But you're going back and forth about something. So we'll have to see how it all plays out, but it looks like Raffensperger's in deep shit. And he deserves to be. You can't change the voting machines weeks before an election and do an update that wasn't certified by anybody, like the EAC, and then just put that through in one of the bigger counties where we're now having all the issues, right? Trump drops a bomb during phone call, tells Raffensperger vote scammer and hustler Ruby Freeman was behind alleged 18,000 fraudulent votes in suitcase scandal. So, it's starting to look like if this woman is done this before, maybe, can they prove that she's actually been doing this? How long has she been working in these particular precincts or particular places, right? Has she done this before in other elections? Can they show that she's done it before? And the other thing is going to be that Raffensperger leaked this call, right? And so there's a problem because the WAPO didn't do its due diligence and realize that, oh, whoops, we didn't realize that this call was already earlier on agreed to by both parties that it was a confidential matter. And if so, you shouldn't have published it. So I don't know WAPO didn't do its due diligence and they got burned. And now they're going to either have to take that down or I don't know. Maybe they'll get sued along with it, along with Raffensperger now. So, Raffensperger, after the call with Trump, an hour call, he leaked to the audio to the nasty anti-Trump. We know that, Washington Post. Then he went on Twitter and refuted President Trump and told him the truth will come out. We reported earlier on the call the president held with Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger. So he leaked it. I guess we could hear it. They have the call, some of it here. It's not the full call. There's Ruby stacking the ballots up. Here's the text. There's some beeps in it, so just turn your volume down a little bit. It's going to beep a couple times. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. So let's go to the audio.
Smaller number, you had 904 who only voted where they had just a PO, a post office box number. And they had a post office box number, and that's not allowed. We had at least 18,000, that's on tape. We had them counted very painstakingly. 18,000 voters having to do with, she's a vote scammer, a professional vote scammer and hustler. That was the tape that's been shown all over the world that makes everybody look bad. You, me, and everybody else. Where they got number one, they said very clearly, and it's been reported that they said there was a major water main break. Everybody fled the area, and then they came back. Her daughter and a few people. There were no Republican poll watchers. Actually, there were no Democrat poll watchers. I guess they were them. But there were no Democrats either, and there was no law enforcement. Early in the morning, they went to the table with the black robe, the black shield, and they pulled out the votes. Those votes were put there a number of hours before. The table was put there. I think it was, Brad, you would know, it was probably 8 hours or 7 hours before, and then it was stuffed with votes. They weren't in an official voter box. They were in what looked to be suitcases, or trunks, suitcases, but they weren't in voter boxes. The minimum number it could be, because we watched it, and they watched it for certified in slow motion, instant replay, if you can believe it, but in slow motion, and it was magnified many times over. And the minimum it was 18,000 ballots, all for Biden. You had out-of-state voters. They voted in Georgia, but
Okay, so that's about all we got there. There's more to that call, but you can see he's going through the whole list, and Raffensperger has nothing to say. I thought this was an interesting article. Flashback, watch Democrats object to the results of the 2000, 2004, and 2016 elections. This is nothing new. There's Biden up there objecting. The media wants you to forget about every time Democrats objected to a Republican president. Kyle Becker posted a string of Democrats objected to the results of the two elections in which George W. Bush prevailed. So you could check that out. Pelosi barely reelected. She allowed a recently COVID positive rep onto the House floor to vote for her, and she barely made it back. And that's probably why she had to do that, right? I noticed that there was this article, USPS reports rise in armed robberies of New Mexico mail carriers. So you got to watch the mail now, right? Is somebody trying to do something with the mail? We don't know, right? And what else do we got? This was that article. You could check it out. If you notice, I checked out the Keck Observatory. Go check out January 30th, 2020, Keck Observatory. There was a lot of stuff flying around that night, and it looks like a light craft. I could see something in the water. There's all kinds of UFO activity out there. It's crazy. So you can see that that's picking up. The Ascension's picking up. I'm watching The Line is Drawn, that Most Wanted right now. I should be back on YouTube tomorrow. If anyone from YouTube is watching on the other channels, I'll have to watch my step. If I get one more strike, then it's a 2-week ban, and I don't even care anymore. You know, YouTube is whatever. I'd rather just stay on YouTube and Rumble anyway. And I can't really upload nothing to brand new tube because they have too small of an upload size. So you have to do a really small file size. So with that, guys, I'll let you go. We'll see what else happens. Is there anything else that I missed that I didn't cover on Gateway? He's filed the lawsuits. It looks like 2 lawsuits against Raffensperger now, so he's in trouble. Super spreader Pelosi promised to and lets this woman in to vote for her. That's about it. So with that, guys, we'll see how everything plays out in the next couple of days. It's going to be a long week, and a lot of stuff's going to come out, I think, this week. So with that, this is Ash, WAT News, signing off for now. Be well, friends.